how do our loved ones that have crossed over, our guides, our angels, factor into the law of attraction? Are they the vortex?
Well, one of the reasons that we described it with the detail that we did today is that when you talk about the other side or the crossing over, that's the way we refer to the broader non-physical aspect of you. And so we were depicting in a way that helps it be clearer to you that you were source energy before you came into this body, and while you're in this body, you're both. And law of attraction is responding to both, to all vibrations. Law of attraction is an equal opportunity across the board responder. So law of attraction is responding to the vibration of your soul, source or soul or inner being, as well as responding to whatever you're giving thought to in this moment. And that is the reason that you can feel emotions. When the thought you're thinking matches the thought that the soul or source within you is thinking, then there's no contradiction and you feel joy.
I understand that, but I guess where I'm coming from is when I'm communicating with somebody who's crossed over, I'm communicating with an angel or whomever. And it's about law of attraction, me putting forth this positive energy. I'm wondering, what is their role? For example, if I asked for something, are they part of the process of getting that to me, bringing it to me?
Well, not as such, but a lot of people have translated it in that way, and it's not wrong. But we're wanting to bring a little more clarity to it by saying that when life gives you an idea of improvement, that broader part of you, though if you want to call them the fairies of the universe, if you want to call them guides or God or source, give undivided attention now to the new and improved version. In other words, all of us from the non-physical format fixate on what you've asked for, not on where you were when you asked.
All of you.
And that's why it's such a powerful convergence of cooperative components. In other words, you could say that all that is source and all of those non-physicals, even birds that fly, even the cat that walks across your deck, becomes one of those cooperative components, ready to play its part in calling you, the physical you, in.
It's a big collective.
It is why we call it source.
It's all source. It's just source.
And it's not only the source of all that comes. That's why it's the source of all that comes. As Jerry and Esther are preparing the final stages of a new book on relationships, and this book is called The Vortex, where all cooperative components, because of law of attraction, are assembled. It's where law of attraction assembles all cooperative components. So the graphic artist is trying to find the appropriate picture, and Esther sees it in her mind. She sees this vortex. She sees this galaxy, this vortex, and so they were having a hard time finding the picture, and Esther said, "What should I look for?" And we said, "Look for black hole." So when Esther typed in black hole, all of these pictures of these swirling vortexes came, and Esther began to realize that the creation of planets is about this swirling vortex, the creation of all things. As we stand here and wave Esther's arm, sometimes we can feel you saying, "Well, Abraham, we're glad that you found your funny way of explaining this, but this vibrational reality isn't getting it for me. I'd rather have the money in my bank or the lover in my bed. The vibrational reality is nice to hear about, but where's my stuff?" And we want to say, your stuff's in this vortex.
Yes.
And you've got to go in there before you can realize it, before you have access to it, before you will be inspired to it, before you will know it and feel it and be there where it is, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So law of attraction is assembling all cooperative components, and of course all that is source is a cooperative component, giving undivided attention. That's why when you in your physical form think thoughts in opposition to your expanded version, you feel the tension, and that's what negative emotion is.
Okay. My next question is, why and how was it decided that you call yourselves Abraham?
As we're visiting with you through Esther, we are not speaking words that she is repeating. We're offering vibration. We're offering knowledge in the form of vibration. So once Esther, through meditation, released enough resistance that she was in the vibrational alignment with that which we are, then as we offered the vibration, words occurred to Esther that were descriptive of the vibration she was reading. In other words, a block of thought which Esther received, she felt the block of thought and translated it at an unconscious level into the verbal equivalent.
But I'm wondering about the name itself, Abraham. Is
Well,
it from the Bible? Is it because...
Well, the name, because you have an attitude about this already that is keeping you from hearing what we're saying. What we're saying is,
Okay.
the words occur to Esther, and the reason they occur is because from everything in her physical vicinity, that is the best. In other words, there's a blending of what we know and what's happening here. And so the best word that is the best description of the block of thought that Esther got, in other words, now that Esther has been listening to us longer and is translating us seamlessly, she would hear us say more about ourselves. We are non-physical energy. We are eternally non-physical energy. A part of the non-physical energy that is us has come forth into the physical. Ask so much for a name. You want the name to be descriptive of all that something is. And so at that unconscious level, the best name that Esther could find, heart of all religions, root of all religions, always a teacher, was Abraham.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Glad you like it.
Thank you. And just one more quick question. Would you please describe specifically what we experience when we croak? Because I've heard that I saw one
the
of your
releasing of all resistance and a immediate receiving and becoming of all that you have been. And so it's a variable depending upon, in other words, someone very far from the vortex who croaks has a real whirlwind experience. Someone like Esther, who's been in the vortex more often than out, or on the brink of it mostly, when she makes her transition, she won't feel the euphoria because there will not be such a big shift in vibration. The more resistance, the most important thing to understand is that in what you call your death experience, you release all resistance. And so the more resistance you have in the releasing, the more of a fast ride it will be. The less resistance you have, the more of a natural step it will be.
I think what I'm getting at, too, is I understand exactly what you're saying. And in a DVD, you once said, too, that Source does not, once you cross over, Source does not look at anything negative. But yet, I've heard other spiritual teachers talk about, like, the life review. Once you croak, you see this life review of your life, the negative, the positive. So really, none of that happens.
Well, if there is anything like that, it's while you are still in your conscious physical form to some degree.
Before you actually are there, before you're there.
It's a bit like what happens when you are waking up from slumber.
Okay.
While you sleep, you release all resistance, but as you come back into consciousness, you reclaim your vibrational attitudes.
Right.
And so there is still some of that Esther was not with her father when he made his transition, but her sister was, and her sister told Esther what happened. And at the point that he was ready to make his transition, he had been in an unconscious state a while, and so he was not communicating with those who were in the room. And as it became evident that he was making his transition, Esther's mother, who was sitting near him, said, "I love you, Bill," to him. And he showed his first sign of comprehension, and he nodded a very powerful affirmative. And so when Esther heard the story, she knew exactly what had happened. He had made, in other words, in his physical state, he was not conscious. His consciousness returned to him as he was making his transition. In other words, he was able to express that because now he was in connection with, and so Esther said softly to her mother, I think Daddy was responding to you from the other side. And she said, no, no, no. He had not gone to the other side when he responded to me. And Esther said, you're probably right. In other words, she did not want to ruffle her mother's feathers. But Esther felt certain that his clarity came from his broader perspective because he had not had clarity for a while from his physical perspective. So that transition time is an interesting time, isn't it?
It is.
In other words, what aspect of who I am is doing the offering. And of course what we're rooting for all day, every day, we want you to be in the vortex as much as possible so that the whole of you is presenting yourself here.
Right.
In other words, when you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and holding someone as the object of your attention, they are thriving by the benefit of that radiance that you are showering upon them. In other words, and we don't ask you to do it because they need it. We think it's a wonderful thing to do because it's more natural to you. In other words, to be tuned in to source and living life, it just doesn't get any better than that.
You're right.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Now what?